Hello and welcome to the Franchise Tag. We are back with a new show, The College Show. I'm Andrew, and I'm being joined by Alex Evans, who's going to be a feature on our college show, a new addition to the Franchise Tag. Really looking forward to having him here. Alex, do you want to tell the guys a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. So I'm Alex. I've been a writer for the Franchise Tag for the past year or so. Spent the last year covering college football, specifically the Pac-12 before it just died a death. And I'll continue my writing covering college football weekly for the Franchise Tag whilst helping out with the podcast as well.
Yeah, as you can see, a USC Trojans fan. So coming over to my Big Ten with my Ohio State. So it could be interesting for us across the season. As I said, it's a new show. We've been on about doing a college show for the last couple of years now. But now just seems like the right time. You know, if there's ever a time to get into college football, it is now. You know, the new playoffs, the NIL, the transfer portal. It's just everything going its way. I think it could be really, really exciting. So we're going for it. We're starting a show, and we'll jump right in there with me saying how exciting it's going to be. New playoffs. How are you feeling about the new 12-team format?
Yeah, I think it's going to be good for a lot of teams. I mean, college playoffs and the way they decide national champions is baffling. First of all, I mean, if you go right back, it started with the AP poll and the coaches poll, where basically national champions were just voted for by a committee, and one team was announced national champions, and that was it. Obviously, we've had the 14 playoffs series now since 2014. That's worked quite well. It gives more of a focus, more of sort of a professional style playoff system, knockout system, which is a bit more exciting for fans as well. But now we've got the 12-team conference playoff starting from this season. But obviously that gives more opportunity for more teams to be part of that and actually have a chance, especially teams outside the Power 4 now, not Power 5 now that Pac-12's gone. I mean, the top 5 conference champions are going to have an automatic place, so that you have the champion from the Big 10, Big 12, SEC, and the ACC, and then you'll get one of the group of 5 teams have an automatic place as well. So that gives more opportunity for the smaller teams from the smaller conferences to come in. And then the next 7 highest ranking teams come in as well. So I think it's going to be more exciting. It's like more of a free-for-all. It's probably still going to have quite a few, or mostly be made up of the more familiar schools, or the more higher ranking powerful schools. But there's that opportunity for some smaller schools to slip in, or at least one, like a Liberty or a Memphis or someone like that.
Yeah, I think all of the now Power 4 have all got together, and they're making sure that they've got spots, aren't they? So I think it'll be the top 2 from each of them. So that'll cover 8 spots. Just on that, I think you probably look at like a Boise State. I think they're probably ones, Mountain West team that might have a good shot, and then you'll have Notre Dame as well, an independent sort of in the mix as well. But
yeah, I don't think they get an automatic place.
They don't.
No, so they'll still have to be voted in by the playoff committee. It gives less, with 12 teams, obviously, it gives less scope for controversy about who gets into the playoff. As we saw with Florida State last year, they were obviously miffed after having a perfect season, winning their championship game, but the playoff committee deciding that actually, because your starting quarterback's injured, we're not going to put you into the playoffs, which for a lot of fans, that was ridiculous. And I'm sure they've got a chip on their shoulder coming into this season. But yeah, they are definitely a contender to make their way back to the playoff this year.
Yeah, couldn't have come at a better time after what happened last year.
Yeah.
There's already talk about turning into a 14-team playoff in 2026. I think that's due to the TV deals. I think all the conferences have got TV rights that run out then, so I think they can expand it to a 14-team. So ever growing. It's an absolute beast, as we said.
Yeah, but the one slight quirk I've seen about the 12-team playoff is the top 4 seeds won't get a home playoff game.
because of the bowl.
Because of the bowl games taking up the quarterfinals and the semi-finals. So the Rose, Sugar, Orange, Cotton, Peach, and Fiesta Bowl will take up those quarterfinals and semi-finals. But it seems almost slightly unfair that you get a top seed ranking, but then you end up not having or being able to get the revenue or just for your fans having a home playoff game would be amazing. But it does give that opportunity to some of the lower ranked schools as well. So I'm sure they'll be pretty happy with that.
I think that's got something to do with the TV deals as well. So
see
that change later down the line. Obviously, another big thing that's happened, we briefly spoke about there. Obviously, your Pac-12 is now the Pac-2. I know they're trying to recruit some more people from the Mountain West teams to come and join them. And maybe
they've agreed a schedule with the Mountain West, haven't they, for at least this year and possibly next year.
We'll talk about some of the other divisions and see what's going on there. We'll start with the Big Ten. There's now 18 teams in there. They are being joined by Oregon, USC, UCLA, and Washington now. For me, this division seems like it's a two-horse race between Ohio and Oregon, I think. And then you've got some contenders in there, Michigan, Penn State, USC, sort of vying for that extra spot. So another one, I think, with the teams that have joined, this is going to be a really exciting division now. Yeah,
I think it's definitely going to mix it up a bit. I think, like you said, Oregon are going to be the team that make the most impact as a new team in the division because they come in the strongest. From last season, they've picked up Dylan Gabriel in the transfer portal to replace Bo Nix. They're probably going to carry on with their quite a high scoring offense. They now have to put up points, and they've just come off a Pac-12 championship game when they lost out narrowly to Washington. Washington, obviously, they've lost quite a few to the big names to the NFL now, Penix, Roma Dunze, amongst others. So they're under a new head coach now with Jed Fish. So they're going to have that bit of rebuilding, that readjusting sort of time. USC, I want to go in and make a big impact. I don't think they're going to. They've just announced, I think, 1 or 2 days ago that Miller Moss has confirmed their starting quarterback. I think he's solid, but he's not Caleb Williams. And the USC had a lot of work to do with their defense because they were just hemorrhaging points last season, and which led to lots of losses, unfortunately. And then we've got UCLA again. Chip Kelly, he's come and joined your team, Ohio State, as an offensive coordinator. So they're going through a bit of a readjusting period as well. I don't think anyone outside of Oregon, though, is really going to make a real run at competing with an Ohio State, with a Michigan, or even, I think, Penn State.
Yeah, I think not many people are talking about Penn State, but they've been absolutely fantastic for like the last 10, 15 years, sort of like they've just, if it was the new format when they were playing, I think they would have qualified for the last 6 of the playoffs. So, they're going to be in the mix. And then Michigan obviously lost 18 players, starting players to the NFL. They have got some big names still on there. I think Donovan Edwards is probably walking around saying, why is everybody writing us off? Why are we not in contention? I'm still here. But yeah, there's a bit of a rebuild going to go on there. New head coach, obviously a lot of media attention for that team of what's happened with Harbaugh and the NCAA. So
is there a Netflix documentary coming out about
wouldn't be surprised.
Stallions and his sign stealing?
But yeah, I do feel Ohio's probably, for me, I'm biased, but I think they've got the best roster in the whole of the college football at the moment. And I only say that because they brought back so many of the veterans. Georgia's got a great roster, but it's full of young talent, 5-star talent. But Ohio brought back all those veterans. So that's the Big Ten.
Yep.
We'll look at the SEC next. That is now 16 teams. They have now been joined by Oklahoma and Texas. Again, it's another one for me. I think it's a 2-horse race still. It's Georgia and Texas. And then you've got the likes of Alabama, who we'll be talking about later, Ole Miss. And then you could probably throw in Missouri and Tennessee maybe as a coming through. I know Missouri finished strong last year, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I find it hard to look past Georgia as the favourites for this division. Kirby Smart and his team, and with Carson Beck as quarterback, they know how to win. They know what they're doing there. Texas, I think both Texas and Oklahoma less so, but as new teams come into the conference, unlike the ones coming into the Big Ten, I think they're ready to make big splashes now. Especially Texas, they've just come off a playoff appearance as well. They want to prove that they can run with the big boys in the SEC, and I think that they can. Quinn Ewers coming off a great season last season. He's got the experience, playoff experience, and he knows what to do to put that team in a winning position. I think there's a few that could sort of fly under the radar, make big splashes later on. You mentioned Missouri. I think that's a team that doesn't necessarily get as much recognition as the other big teams, but again is a strong candidate for a team that could fly under the radar and then make a big push. And I think LSU not so much this year. I don't know. I think USC played them in Las Vegas in the opening game in the weekend. I think that's going to be a tough trip for the Trojans.
Yeah, I mean LSU, despite even when they have their down seasons, are still not easy to beat. They recruit well, don't they? They've still got 4 or 5-star recruits on that team, so they're always going to be in the mix and playing well. But yeah, I think Texas have got a lot on their shoulders this year because Texas play better when they're an underdog, when they're the favourites and everyone thinks they're going to win a title and everyone thinks they're going to be great. They tend to let a lot of people down. They tend to be a bit of a heartbreak team. So I think they've got a lot to prove this year. And Georgia obviously are going to feel really gutted that they didn't get a chance to go for that three-peat last year. And as we said, their recruiting process and Kirby Smart's looking to follow in Nick Saban's footsteps, having a bit of a legacy there.
Yeah.
The ACC we'll talk about next. It's now 17 teams. They've been joined by Cal, SMU, and Stanford. For ages now, this has been Clemson's division. You know, they've dominated it. I think that they don't get enough respect for what they did over that whole era that Nick Saban dominated because they were absolutely fantastic for a long period of time. But I do feel that FSU and Miami have just pipped them now to move into that number 1 and 2 contending spot. I think Clemson have got a lot to do with. Dabo Swinney needs to seriously look at the transfer portal, doesn't he? He needs to buy into it a bit more. But what's your thoughts on the ACC?
Yeah, I mean, Florida State, I think, clear favourites now. Mike Norvell, their head coach, has become king of the transfer portal. As soon as he gets holes, he'll obviously lost quite a few players to the NFL, like Keon Coleman and Travis. Not Travis Scott, that's the singer. Jordan Travis, sorry, their quarterback to the NFL as well. So he's hit the transfer portal hard to replace those. He's brought in DJ Uiagalelei from Oregon State, who was a previous. Yeah, he was with Clemson, wasn't he? And he sort of flamed out at Clemson.
Yeah. Big hype about him going into his first year, and he just sort of never really made it.
No, never really got it going there. Transferred to Oregon State and sort of reinvigorate himself. They had a solid season with him under center last season, and there's high hopes that he can continue the trend of quite a powerful offense in Florida State. They've managed to retain some good defensive players like Patrick Payton. On defense, he's going to be a linchpin in there. They managed to keep hold of him, and he didn't escape in the transfer portal. But yeah, I can't really look past Florida State. Clemson, I think, will push them, but I think Florida State are clear favourites. Miami now, I think, are going to be stronger. They've got Cam Ward, who's decided he doesn't want to play all those Mountain West teams in the Pac-2 with Washington State, and decided to stay in college and come to Miami for a year. And I think he's going to be quite a good person to lead that team.
Yeah, as soon as I heard that he wasn't declaring for the NFL for the draft, I was like, I want him at Ohio. I think he's absolutely fantastic. And then, we've got Will Howard instead. He ended up going to Miami. I think that now makes Miami a contender to qualify for the playoffs, potentially. I think, they could go, I think they could win 10 games. I really do. He's a quality quarterback. And then we talk about the last one, the Big 12. And I've left it till last because it is now 16 teams. It's been joined by Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah. Obviously, Oklahoma and Texas have left this one now. We've already spoke about them. But for me, this division is wide open. I think they're all going to be challenging each other and all going to be beating each other up. Obviously, we said at the start of the show, one of these guys is going to qualify automatically as a top seed, as a fourth seed. So there's definitely, it doesn't matter how many they lose as long as if they win it. And I think there's so many contenders in here that are just going to be playing and beating each other. Utah, Oklahoma State, Kansas, Arizona, I think are all going to be really, really good. I quite like Colorado as well, but I'm not sure they're quite up to the talent of them quite yet. I know you're big on Oklahoma State, aren't you? How do you feel about it?
I think, like you said, there is a division that could be wide open, a bit of a free for all. Now that Texas have left, I think it is a team that any team could win. It's become a probably national conference because I think there's teams covering all 4 time zones of the country now. So there's going to be a bit of traveling to and from. But yeah, I think Oklahoma State are the strongest contenders to step up into Texas's shoes. With both them and Oklahoma gone, they'll be relying on star running back Ollie Gordon, to propel them to the title game, to the conference championship. I think there's a lot of teams though that could really just go on strong runs. You talked about Utah. They're always a solid team. They've fairly recently won the Pac-12 back-to-back. They've got starting quarterback Cam Rising back now. He missed most of last season through injury. And head coach Carl Whittingham, who's been there for a long time, and like he knows how to win. And I never see Utah as the most exciting team.
Nope.
But they always seem to hang in every game, and they can grind out a lot of wins. Whereas other teams like Arizona, I really like Arizona. I developed a real soft spot for them last season because they just seem to be one of those underdog teams that just managed to build that momentum and a really sort of strong team spirit to propel them, because did they finish with 8 wins or more last season, and to a bowl game where they knocked off Oklahoma in a bowl game. So, and with Noah Fafita, he decided to stay put in Arizona after Jed Fish left for the Washington job. They got possibly the best receiver in college football for this season in Teteroa McMillan. I say possibly, he's probably my favorite receiver in college football this year. But the combination of those two, plus just the momentum they had, and probably wanting to stick it to their old head coach who they thought was going to stick with them for the long run. But yeah, that would be my pick for a dark horse team in that one. But I think overall, Oklahoma State have the best chance of coming out on top of that division.
Well, I said earlier, Ohio managed to bring back veterans, and that's why I had them over Georgia. Oklahoma State have done a similar thing. They've brought back a lot of players, a lot of strong players. Obviously, Ollie Gordon being one of them, who you think might carry them. Arizona, yeah, you said that they've been the underdog a lot. I find that they're a basketball school to me, and they've always have been. So what they've done, what they did last year and made themselves relevant in football, I thought was fantastic. And they're just going to push on from there. And this is all down to, as we said, the portal and NIL, isn't it? That you can bring in the bigger names, you can develop a team now. So, it's exciting. As you said, Utah as well. One thing we will know about them, they will have a good defense. That's why people say they're not exciting. They don't concede many, they don't score. As I said, I think that's going to be a really, really exciting conference to watch this year with them. With there being so, I think all of these teams as well, every single one that I mentioned, have got fantastic quarterbacks, and you've arguably got someone who's vying to be behind Carson Beck maybe in the draft in Shedeur Sanders in this division, and arguably what people are saying is the best player in football in Travis Hunter at Colorado as well. And we haven't really spoke about them in this conversation, so we'll talk about them later. But there's a lot of quarterbacks in that division. It reminds me a lot of the Pac-12 last year that division does this year, with a lot of teams just beating each other up.
Yeah, and hopefully it will be a bit like the Pac-12, because the Pac-12 was a really fun division to watch, a conference to watch last year, and I think the Big 12 is going to replicate that. That's going to be the most fun conference to watch this year out of the Big Four.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we'll move on to two teams that I think are really interesting topics before going into the season. A lot of hype about both of them for different reasons. We'll start off with Alabama. Why not? Alabama, obviously, Nick Saban has now left. He had the longest stretch of success out of anybody. He's the GOAT of college football. The big shoes to fill for Kalen DeBoer. Obviously, once Saban left and DeBoer was named, obviously they had a lot of guys go, "Oh, we've joined here to play with Saban. We're off." So they lost Isaiah Bond, Trey Amos, Caleb Downs, Julian Saying. They lost is it Proctor, the offensive tackle, as well. So a lot of people left. So a lot of people now are saying, are Alabama as good as what they used to be? Are they still going to be as dominant? Kalen DeBoer, obviously 25-3 at Washington, 104-12 on his career. The guy knows offense. The guy knows football. He knows how to win. What's the expectation for Alabama this year for you?
I think the expectation of Alabama, especially from Alabama fan base, is still going to be ridiculously high, because it's such an ingrained culture of excellence, and just as a team that is expected to win every year. Obviously, Kalen DeBoer steps into Nick Saban's shoes. He's arguably the greatest college coach that there have been. Like I said, winning 6 national championships in Alabama over 17 years. I don't think anyone else is going to come close to replicating that. And you hear the phrase thrown about a lot, you don't want to be the guy to follow the guy. Fortunately or unfortunately for Kalen DeBoer, he is that guy who's going to follow the guy. So the expectation is going to be ridiculously high. Hopefully, he'll be given enough time to embed his ethos, his philosophy onto the team. I said he's a very strong, offensively minded coach. Washington last year were putting up, I think they were putting up an average of like 40 odd points per game. He's going to know how to get the best out of a high scoring offense. He's going to know how to utilize and develop a quarterback like Jalen Milroe, who's quite a strong dual threat quarterback. He can use his legs. He's got a really strong arm as well. He could be the linchpin for that offense. They've got a really strong running back room now. They could, obviously big names left, but they got like running backs like Jan Miller, who's going to step up and take a real lead role in this offense as well. What you'd hope for DeBoer as well is that they can get the defense on a par or somewhere near to a par as it was before, because obviously Saban was a strong defensive-minded coach. He's brought in Kane Womack, who was the head coach of South Alabama, to be his defensive coordinator, so that could be quite a strong choice there. But again, it's all going to take time to settle in. There's almost a completely new coaching staff. I think he only retained about 2 people from Saban's staff, so it's all going to be new. But like, he's going to rely, I think, especially with the defense as well, he's going to rely a lot on the experienced players. So like players like Deontay Lawson, his returning linebacker, he's going to need those experienced players to take on real leadership roles to bring everyone together and buy into the new system. But as soon as they start, it's likely that they're going to have a couple of losses. I mean, they played Texas in their second game, and they got Ole Miss quite early on. I've got that size in last season. They've got a reasonably easy running to start. They've got Western Kentucky and South Florida to bed in to start. So I think they probably purposely built their schedule around the smaller schools to get bedded in. I think it's slightly harder. They've got Auburn, LSU, Missouri, Georgia fairly early on. They won't beat Georgia, but as soon as they lose a game, I think there's going to be parts of the fan base calling for his head, and he's just going to have to weather that, and hopefully he'll be given enough time to develop and build it back up again.
Yeah, you mentioned Jalen Milroe there. Obviously, last year I thought he struggled a little bit. I thought he wasn't as polished and wasn't as clean as I thought he was going to be, and he did get better as the season went on, and he did look quite good towards the end. I think Caleb DeBoer can really excel him now, obviously being the offensive minded coach, and push him. Do you think there's any chance whatsoever that Jalen Milroe could be in the Heisman Trophy conversation by the end of the season?
I think he'll be up there. I think did he narrowly miss out on the finals last season? But yeah, I think it's definitely going to be a name that's going to be thrown about in Heisman contention. I think there's going to be a couple of others that are going to surpass him in that. But yeah, I think under DeBoer's tutelage, I think that there's a strong chance that he'll develop, hopefully, into the quarterback that he potentially can be.
Well, when we talk about expectation for Alabama as a team as a whole, what do you think the minimum is for this team? Do you think it's just qualifying for the playoffs, which I think they will do quite comfortably? Is it getting past the wild card round, if you like? Is it getting to the semi-final? What is the expectation that you feel they have to exceed to get this year?
Fans' expectation will be a decent playoff run. Realistic expectations from neutral fans, I think, securing a place in the playoffs, I think, would be excellent in the first season under a new head coach with the roster and the state that it is at the moment. So yeah, I think that'd be good. I think.
So you think just qualifying is expectation?
I mean, the expectations for Alabama are ridiculously high. I'm just saying that as a neutral. So from a completely impartial sort of perspective, I think they've done pretty well to get into the playoffs. But I mean, yeah, I think realistically, expectations from the fan base, if they're not in the semis or pushing for a national title game again, then yeah, they're going to be disappointed.
Yeah, I think if they get through the first round, I think that's where they're at for me in terms of expectation. Another team that is very big and very popular for everyone to talk about. You either love them or you hate them. There's no sitting on the fence with this team, and that's the Colorado Buffaloes. Yeah. People are either, no, they're trash. I'm not buying into what Coach Prime is doing, or people are like, yeah, I love it. It's fantastic. I really, really think they can do well and win. So I think they're a really interesting one to talk about. How do you feel about the Colorado Buffaloes?
I do like watching Colorado. That 3-game run at the start of last season, especially that game against TCU, that was probably some of the most fun football I've watched in college football. The game against USC last year was phenomenal. That was just a shootout because you had Caleb Williams and Shedeur Sanders just really going toe to toe. You mentioned before that Shedeur is a phenomenal quarterback. He's got that big playability, but he was getting absolutely battered last year. I think they took a total. It wasn't all him because they put the backup in sometimes. I think they took a total of 56 sacks.
52 of them were on Shedeur Sanders.
So he missed 4 of them. Yeah, we have to about that, but yeah. But he was just getting beat up. I think as well, some players like Travis Hunter, he's phenomenal to watch going both ways. He's a great receiver. He's a great cornerback. But I think he ended up with a bit of a target on him. Was it in the Colorado State game when he got absolutely whacked? Yeah. So I think teams will be gunning for him just because of all the hype, the views of some that they're that Coach Prime is more focused on social media and that sort of attention to the school. When actually he is a good coach. He did a great job at Jackson State. He did great in terms of recruiting last year. That recruiting, I think, has dropped off a bit this year, and they have lost a lot of players. They've only got 3 starters returning on offense, which is Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter, and Jimmy Horn, I think it is. But saying that, they're 3 very good starters. Mm-hmm. I think Jimmy Horn and Travis Hunter put up like 1,100 yards between them last year, and 1,300 yards, about 11 touchdowns. So they've got that. If their defense can step up a bit, I think they'll do all right. But I can't see them being more. I think they're going to be like a 5 or 6 win team this year, which is a slight improvement from last year, but that's right.
If you think about it, in 2022, they won 1 game and they won it in overtime. And then they had that big haul of kicking out a load of players saying we're doing it this new way, and they got 4 wins last year. But when you really, really look at it, that 52 sacks on can't even say his name now, Shedeur Sanders, is ridiculous. When you look at like some of the other guys, I think Penix and Nix and that weren't even sacked like 10 times, were they? So, that 52 is a massive, massive number that no one else is getting sacked by that man. It's the most in the league, I think. So they've strengthened up the O-line. They've got spent a lot of time and effort in making that better. If they can just half that sacks, if they can get him down to 25 sacks this season, which is still ridiculously high, when you then think about, let's take that out, we're giving him a bit more time, he can move the ball a little bit. Let's take a little bit of a look into what those games were. They played 6 ranked opponents last year. They beat one of them. 4 of them, they lost by 1 score, and they got blew out by Oregon, which is understandable. So if you think about those 4 games that they lost by 1 score against Arizona, Oregon State, UCLA, and USC. And we're saying they've strengthened the O-line. They've strengthened the D-line a little bit as well. Shedeur Sanders is top tier. Travis Hunter is the best. I think that there's a chance that those 1-score games that they lost to ranked opponents now might sway the other way. And there's a possibility of 7, maybe 8 wins this season, possibly. And if that is 7 to 8 wins, do you think they qualify for a bowl game this year?
You qualify for a bowl game with 6 wins, don't you? So I think they do well to get a bowl game this year. I think they would. I think if they can carry on with a steady, gradual improvement, I still think 6 to 7 wins, 5 to 6, 6 to 7. But I think that they do well with a bowl game. I don't think they're playoff contenders, but they're a fun team to watch. Definitely.
I'm just going to have a quick look at how it opens for them. North Dakota State, Nebraska. That Nebraska game is going to be a big game. I think Nebraska are going to be better. They don't really 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They don't really play anybody till week 6. So they could be 5. They could be 5-0 going into playing Kansas State, which I don't think they'll be Kansas State. And then they've got Arizona, and then they end very, very hard with Utah, Kansas, and Oklahoma State. So I don't think there'll be many wins towards the end, but they could start the season off really, really strong. I think for me, expectation is qualify for a bowl. I'm guessing your expectation for them is 4 wins again.
I think 5 or 6. I think there's going to be some good close games. There's going to be some quite exciting games. I think when they play Arizona, Cincinnati could be quite a good game. They've got quite a tough run in. Texas Tech, Utah, Kansas, and Oklahoma State is going to be, I think, a tough stretch for them come the end of the season.
Right. We'll move on from those 2 teams, and we'll talk about something that we need to get a stamp on before the season starts. We can't be calling it once it already starts, and that's the Heisman Trophy. You've got 2 guys for us to talk about. A quarterback you think could win it, and a non-quarterback that you think could win it. Talk about your Heisman Trophy candidates.
Yeah, so I've gone from a quarterback choice, and it's probably going to be a quarterback, but I've gone for Dylan Gabriel, who's just come into Oregon to take over from Bo Nix. He's a very experienced quarterback. He's coming into quite a strong situation with head coach Dan Lanning. Again, it's a team that puts up a lot of points. I think they were ranked 2nd last season in terms of points scored per game. Am I making that up? Did I write that down? Yeah, they're on like 44.2 points per game. So he knows how to scheme up a strong offense, and one that puts up good high stats, a lot of yards, a lot of points. He's still got quite a few good weapons around him. They've got Tez Johnson is back again for Oregon, who was a target for Bo Nix last year. They've got receivers like Gary Bryant. They've got Evan Stewart who's come in. He's a 5-star recruit who transferred over from Texas. They will miss players like Troy Franklin and Bucky Irving. But I think he's put himself in a good position to put up a lot of points. He's had 49 career starts so far, which is a lot. I think he's 9 to break Bo Nix's
record. Bo Nix's record, yeah.
College games ever. So yeah, he's got the experience. He's only got 1 year left. Has he only got 1 year left eligibility? Because I think he's in his sixth season now. He spent 2 at UCF and 2 at Oklahoma, where he did very well. And he's currently the active passing leader in the FBS with what I wrote that down as 14,865 yards. So yeah, and he's only had 26 interceptions in his college career compared to 125 touchdowns. So he's a fairly safe pair of hands as well, and I think he can really help Oregon have a strong push in the Big Ten this season. So yeah, that would be my pick at quarterback.
Yeah, he's just crept into the favourite spot for the Heisman Trophy. Yeah, over the last couple of weeks, he's risen. He's gone to 7-1, I believe, which has just overtaken Carson Beck and pipped him for the favourite spot. Who Carson Beck's been the favourite for quite some time now. So I think a lot of people are getting on board with that. I think as we get closer to the season, I think people are starting to realise that Oregon could be the most exciting offense in football. So if that's the case, it's going to go through Dylan Gabriel, isn't it? So it's a great shout, and he should be in the mix and the conversation by the end of the year. Who's your non-quarterback that you like for it?
Yeah, I think, in my opinion, the player of the best shout who's not a quarterback is Ollie Gordon for Oklahoma State. I think he's the centerpiece of that team's offense. Everything's going to run through him. He was 7th in the Heisman voting last season. He started off quite slow last season. They didn't really know what they had with him. Because he only had I think it was 19 carries in his first 3 games, and then he sort of just exploded. He's had 9 100+ yard games, including consecutive 250+ yard games against West Virginia and Cincinnati last season. I've seen comparisons of him and fellow Oklahoma State alumni and Heisman winner Barry Sanders. So if he gets anywhere near to that, then he's a very good player. But yeah, he was a leading rusher last year. He had 1,700 yards rushing. Derek Walker award winner for best running back. And yeah, I think I can't see past if it doesn't go to a quarterback. I think he's going to be a fine. I think he will be in the Final Four at least this year, and in with the shout.
You think he'll get to the Final Four?
I think he'll get to the Final Four because I think if Oklahoma State do well, if they come out on top, and then I think he'll have a good case to be up there.
Yeah, I think Quinshon Judkins is going to have a really, really good this year as a running back. Not necessarily saying he's going to be in with a shout of that Heisman Trophy winning, but yeah, I think he's going to be really, really good now. We've transferred to Ohio State. Funny enough, I'm bringing up Ohio State players again. Yeah. For me, I've had a look at some of the more outsiders of this competition. I did last year. Last year, I put my money on 2 quarterbacks. I had it on Penix and I had it on Jaden Daniels. So I think I got one at 14-1 and the other one at 12-1. So, I do like to look at an outsider that could be maybe I look at the head coach that's with them, what style of play they play, who the receivers are, things like that. So I steered away from the likes of Gabriel, Beck and Ewers, who I think are definitely going to be in the conversation regardless. I think it'd take quite a bit for an injury probably for one of them to drop out of the conversation by the end of the season. So the ones for me, I was looking at Jackson Dart over at Ole Miss. Yeah. Obviously, Lane Kiffin is producing magic at Ole Miss. Back-to-back great, fantastic seasons. I think he's at 14-1, so around that score again. I think they start off the season. I'm just going to bring it up quickly because I think they start the season off with quite a friendly schedule. Quick look. They start. Where have you gone? They start the season with Furman, Middle Tennessee, Wake Forest, Georgia Southern, Kentucky, South Carolina before they play LSU. So I think there's a massive, massive chance for Jackson Dart to pad the stats out massively and rack them up because there's some easy games. So I think going into sort of what you're looking at week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, week 7, it's only LSU as well. He could already be a bit of a front runner already for the stats there.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that they're not really going to hit any hurdles until they reach Oklahoma the week after, and then
again, I think they're better than LSU and Oklahoma. So I think he'll win those games. I think it's the Georgia game that he's going to struggle in, but he might already have cemented his spot with stats wise there for that.
That could potentially, that Georgia game could be a bit of a conference decider coming into it, because it's quite likely that both teams will be undefeated coming into that week. But yeah, I think that'd be a great matchup, and yeah, if somehow I manage to win that one, then he should definitely be more than in with a shout in the.
And then the other one for me was Will Howard, and that was just for the sheer fact that I think Ohio have a great chance of going unbeaten this year. They've got 3 absolutely Egbuka. They've got Carnell Tate. They've got Smith that they brought in as well, who looks absolutely fantastic. 3 fantastic wide receivers. If you can, Brandon Innes as well, who's the 4th wide receiver, who looks very, very good. Very good there. O-line's good. Defense is going to be strong, so they're going to be set up in good positions. I think the best running back duo in football at the moment with Henderson and Judkins. So if he's the focal point and he's the man steering the team and he's getting the ball moving and scoring those touchdowns, he's an upgrade, definitely, to Carl McCord that they had last year. So with that said, if they go unbeaten and he's the guy and he's producing the goods, could he be in the conversation? Or is it a JJ McCarthy situation?
I think he could be up there. I like Will Howard. I was quite excited when he was quite strongly linked to USC last season as well, and there was quite a lot of talk about him maybe going there. And I was disappointed when he finally chose to come to Ohio State. I think he's good. He's solid. He's definitely got the weapons around him. I just think there's some more exciting quarterbacks in college football this year. I don't think he'll. Maybe he will. Up quite as much as like the Dylan Gabriels, but yeah, I think there's too many in with the shout this year. But yeah, I think he'll be up there. I'm not quite sure if he'll be a finalist. I don't know, not quite. I think he'll be up there, but not quite there.
And then just before we sign out, I had a wild card guy that I just think there's a possibility on the offense that he's in, on his head coaching is, and I'm now going to try and pronounce his name. It's Nico Iamaleava at Tennessee Volunteers. We saw him at the back end of last year when he came in for Milton, and he looked really super impressive. And we know how Heupel loves, we've seen Hooker, we've seen Milton, and now him. Loves to favor the quarterback. That offense is built around the quarterback succeeding and having massive seasons. So I just think as an outsider that no one's talking about, there's a strong possibility this guy could get himself in the mix. Dual threat. He's going to be great with his legs. He's going to be great with his arm. Could be slightly, like Jaden Daniels. People weren't talking about him. They weren't even talking about him in the draft as a draft prospect for the top half of the draft last year before the season started. So a guy like him could do it in one season and show his worth. Yeah.
Hopefully, yeah. I'll be honest. I haven't watched him at all. I didn't watch him at all last season. No, I know his name, but aside from that, I don't know much about him. I'm definitely going to keep my eye out for him this season, see how he gets on with the Volunteers. But yeah, I'll be excited to watch him. But outside of that, I can't give much analysis on that one because I haven't watched him at all.
We did say we've got a little group chat. We did also mention Travis Hunter, and we did say what could he do to get himself in the conversation. Obviously, we've already mentioned plays both sides of the ball. Do we think that it's just an interception and touchdown total that might give him, or do you think the fact that he's on the Buffaloes and they're not going to be fantastic, that it might just rule him out completely?
I think, unfortunately for him, yes, to agree. I think that they're not going to be up there with the contenders, which is going to hold him back. It's likely that he's going to have quite a strong season. He's probably going to be Shadur's favoured target. So I think he's going to put up a lot of yards. He's going to score some touchdowns, and he's also the top cornerback on the team. So it's likely he's going to have good stats on the defensive side of the ball as well. There could be a case if he puts up such a good season statistically that could override the fact that the team maybe aren't winning as much as others, and he could put himself in the mix. I mean, like last year with Jaden Daniels, the LSU didn't get to the playoffs. He still won the Heisman, so it could be a similar case of that. He could, if he's so good that he can't be ignored, sort of case.
I think because he's in a category of his own. I think 10 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Who else has done that? Who else has managed that? It's one of those things that you're kind of saying he's done something that no one else is doing or done previously. So I just think that might give him a bit of an accolade to maybe get it. But there's other rewards, isn't there? That he might just clean up on them. Before we sign out, the first game of week 0 is in Dublin. Do you want to plug it for us?
I'll plug it. Yeah. So we've got the Aer Lingus College Classic, Florida State and Georgia Tech facing off in Dublin this Saturday to kick off the college season. I think a lot of fans are happy that we're here now and the new season's kicking off. We're going to be there, the franchise side, providing coverage. We'll be there for the game. We'll be there for the post-match interviews as well. So we'll try and provide as much coverage to fans for that, and some post-game analysis and things like that. But yeah, it should be quite a good game, I think. Obviously, Florida State are favourites, but Georgia Tech, they're not a team to be sniffed at, I don't think. I think they're going to lose by a couple of scores, but I think it's not going to be a complete blowout, and I think it's going to be a fun game, fun experience for fans over in Ireland. I think there's quite a lot of US fans travelling over. I think a lot of Georgia Tech fans I've seen on Twitter and things saying we're on our way to Ireland. So yeah, I think it's going to be great fun. And we've got college game days there for the first time in Ireland. So they're going to be broadcasting live from outside Trinity College, I think, with new panelist Nick Saban. I think is a new analyst on there, so that'll be exciting as well. And big names like Pat McAfee and Paul Feinbaum and things like that. So it's all going to be very exciting. I think it's going to be a great day of football, and I'm very much looking forward to it.
Yeah, I really wanted to go to it as well, but unfortunately not free to travel over for the time I needed to be. But as you've said, yourself and Gareth are both going to be at the game. You're going to be there doing lots of media around it. So if any of our viewers see them, go and say hello, ask them some questions. I'd say you're more approachable than Gareth. He's a very nice scouser. No, only kidding. He's absolutely fantastic. Does all of our interviews with our big names as well. So yeah, get in touch with the guys, go and see them, have a beer with them afterwards. I'm sure they'll be very, very welcoming. It's something really to look forward to as well. But that's our first college show in the books, and really looking forward to the season. And hopefully Adam will join us for week 1 of the college season for the show. But till then, thanks for joining, and see you again very soon.